Quick update video on Bitcoin. Wasn't that long ago that I did my recent video, but let's get at it again. My long trades that I'm in is still that phantom long. I've taken the majority of the profits out of this, but we're up and it hasn't kicked me out yet. I'll move my stop loss up, but we're currently 225% up. And my V-chain long, which I opened a couple of days ago, but think about 3 days ago, it went up to about 20% on the first day, second day 150, and now I'm up 313%. So we're all looking good here. So let's move over to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin on the hourly chart, not much has changed from the 10 or so hours ago that I posted my last video. This resistance line is still being respected, as you can see. So it's in play. We're being rejected here, rejected there. You can see we pushed up a little bit. We pushed up a little bit, closed up a little bit, and that's just indicative of the hourly chart. Really, it's not as accurate as say a 4-hour chart in my experience. So you can see we're pushing up. We even got a close above here before we got pushed back down. But if you look on the 4-hourly chart, you can see it didn't really close above for more than one candle. We sort of came up and got pushed right back down. So it's just an example here where you might want to focus on using the 4-hourly chart over the hourly chart. I mean, you can trade the hourly chart, but then you'll probably be bouncing between the hourly and the 24-minute. If you want to enter a trade, you want to sort of bounce between those. But the way I trade a bit more macro, so I prefer to use the 4-hour chart. So that's why I've got it there. So let's have a look at these resistance lines here. I don't usually plot my resistance lines like this. I actually prefer to use like a box, like so, and get a bit of a range rather than just one simple line, because I think it's a bit simple. So let's have a look at why I've got this resistance line here. So I'm here still on Bitcoin, weekly chart now, and what I'm going to do, these are the indicators that I'm using. I'm using the zigzags and I'm using the Gantt swings, and I'm using that to help identify the swings in the chart. So the peak to the trough, lows and highs, that's what these lines are. That's what these horizontal lines are for. But I'm going to change these. I'm going to change these to the boxes. So let's go ahead and do that. So I had this trend line here, this one here, and I put that in place because we are hitting this swing here. Okay, this swing high here, that swing high there, and it's also been respected by some of these ones here. But I'm going to make it into a box. So let's go ahead and do that. First off, let me delete this line here. So that line is gone. I'm going to get the box and let's see if I can see any confluence between any of these. And what I can see is a swing low right here. Okay, I can see a swing low right here. So I'm going to grab that. I can also see a swing high up here. We've also got that swing high there. But I'm going to include that swing high. We're bringing it across. So there we go. Okay, so it's brought it across. We've got a bit of a range. Now, obviously there's some downsides to that. You know, we're in a range of 50,000 to about 52,000, but it's better to be in a range. It's better to have that. So you can see where I grabbed it from. I like to place it where it started from, and that was this swing here. You can see there. All right, so we're including that area there. We're including this swing high there, which was resistance before we fell down. We're also including this resistance here. We pushed up into that resistance and then fell back down. So that's why it's also being respected. And we can also see, as earlier, when we went into the hourly chart, that is being respected here as well. Okay, you can see it's being respected there. So we now have a bit of a range. Bitcoin is fighting this resistance here. Okay, cool. So we've established that Bitcoin is in this wide resistance range, and I've just reduced the opacity of this so we can see it a bit better. I've got my zigzags and my Gantt swings on. The zigzag is this white line. As you can see, there has been no pull back on that, but you can see in the WD Gantt swings, the pink lines here, we have had multiple swings in this move. So because we're going to be focusing on the short term, I'm going to pay more attention to the pink line just so that we can see what's going on in the short term. And this is really good for those who are trading the short term time frames. Let's see if we can plot any sort of trend lines or anything like that. I'm just going to do this on a short time. I'm not making any trades based on this, but for those of you that might be interested, we might want to do that. So you can say we've got a swing low right here, not swing low, but a low that formed here, this bar here. So let's grab that. You can see we can plot it out, and it's basically what we want to touch is as much touch points as possible. So we've got one here, we've also got one here, we've also got one here. So we kind of had that trend line here. All right, it's a mini little trend line on the hourly time frame. cool. You can see Bitcoin has slightly pulled back beneath that. So let's see, the bulls will want to see us get back on top of this trend line here. We want to see us get back on top. Is there a trend line we can draw above as resistance? And perhaps there is, right? Perhaps we've got this sort of trend here, this sort of line here, okay, sort of rising channel. But maybe perhaps it's a rising wedge, and rising wedges typically break down, and Bitcoin is breaking down at the moment, but it's on the hourly time frame. This could pump up anytime. We have let's move you out the way. You can see we've lost this swing. We did lose that swing. We lost that swing temporarily, and we're now pushing above. Okay, so on the short term, that's something you might want to look at, right? You might want to you might get bearish if Bitcoin loses this area here. So what the bears would want to see on this short term time frame is a hit of this line here, and then perhaps a drop underneath this line, and then back test it as resistance as well. That would be something you'd be looking for as a bear, and it'll be the start of a trend change on the hourly chart. But who knows, it could go over to the 4-hourly chart as well, and so forth and so forth. But I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying if you were a bear, that's what you'd be looking for. You know, you've got your first sign of weakness, okay, out of the trend line, out of this pattern, out of this rising wedge. Okay, cool. And then, you know, I like to back out my fibs. You know, I like to do that. And that might be something you do, right? And perhaps you do it, what you would do with the fib, or what I would do if I was trading this, is I would actually back out the fib on the most recent high and the most recent low. So when I'm doing it on resistance, I get the high first to the low. Okay, to the low. So you can see we're coming up to 50% right now, and you can see Bitcoin is printing an interesting candlestick here. Okay, very interesting candlestick here. So what you'd want to see as a bull, of course, get above the 50%, get above the 618, and more importantly, get above this trend line, okay, and hold above these highs. That's what you'd want to see to get bullish again. So it's a good idea to really just plot these things on your chart. I mean, everybody's got, you might not have trading view, but you've got the Binance app or BitGet or whatever you trade on, and all of these exchanges, you can do these things. So you can learn like this. You can put it on the hourly chart and just practice. And that's just the idea of this sort of video, just to tell you that you can practice even on the hourly chart, and see how it goes. And you might want to take this bet, right? Like, it wouldn't be a bad idea. Like, we're in an uptrend macro, right? But we've been in this macro uptrend for a little while. Resistance is resistance until it's not. So we're already in this big, the background, this white background. We're in a macro sort of resistance area, and you've just seen sort of like your first sign of weakness. So perhaps you put that bet on, right? You put this bet on, maybe on the 50%. Maybe you've got 10 lots of money, £10, for example, and you put £1 at the 50% or £2 at the 50%. But then you have £3 on the 618, if that makes sense. Okay, so you're scaling up. It's almost like a pyramid. It's like a pyramid like this. You know, you're putting £2 on there, you know, and at the second point, at the 618, maybe you've put, you know, £4 there, and then, you know, you've got 5 lots a bit more at the top, and then you know, you tell you that's your stop loss. You know, perhaps that's your stop loss, or your stop loss is up here. Okay, market makers often have a habit of trying to take out those stops before they push it back down, if that was to happen though. Okay, so I like to give myself a bit of room, so I might put my stop loss on this swing, just slightly above this swing. Okay, so just to reiterate what I said, if you believe we're going short on an hourly time frame, you might want to enter a short at 50% at the 618, and then put your stop loss maybe on this swing or this swing up here. All right, but because I'm measuring this bar here, we're actually our fib is based on this swing here. Okay, that fib is based on that swing, but you might want to take that, you might want to take this fib to this swing here and give yourself a bit more wiggle room, in which case your 50% has gone slightly higher and your 618's gone just higher, and we've got some confluence there, right? Like the 618 lines up with this trend line here, So that would probably be a more safer bet. Okay, would be a safer bet, especially because we're so bullish right now. And maybe but I'm going to be looking out for that. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to watch out, see how Bitcoin responds to this 50%, to the 618, and this trend line. Let's see if it can get above it. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say, really. Practice on the hourly time frame. You know, so often we don't have the patience to sort of wait out and see what it does macro, but all of the rules still apply to the shorter term time frames. But you still have to be aware of what macro time frame we're in. And at the moment, Bitcoin's bullish. You know, we're in a bullish uptrend. So just keep that in mind. But this could be the first building blocks of a pullback. So yeah, I hope that was useful. It's certainly useful for me. But have a good rest of your day.